It's Thursday, it's about 8 o'clock here in Seattle. Nope, that is not the one I expected it to be. We are looking for this one? Also, I bet. Nope. Where are we at? Why ain't I showing my post? There we are. Alright, cool. So forgive the silliness of reality. If you follow, if you grab my Twitter down below, I just posted that I'm live. And let's see. Also, I'm just hitting my Discord real quick. So we've been placing content. We've been building this this combat and exploration system for Spelljammer here for the past few months on stream. This will be added to the In Command playlist that exists already inside of my channel. So do me a favor, like and subscribe, yada yada, so that you can stay up to date when I am publishing. I run at least once a day. I have at least one stream a week for the Spelljammer mechanics. I have at least one stream a week for the martial power system development, and I have what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say and write at the same time, and it's not working out like I expected. Shocking. So hold on real quick. I'm dropping down into, I'm just posting all my stuff, and then I'll be live here in a hot moment. All right, that moment is now. So cool. Let's see, going over to my screens here to flip stuff up. This is the cover that we built for the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration system. Thank you to Nathaniel Rue for creating the Spelljammer logo and posting it on DMsGuild for the rest of us to use. Otherwise, the previous streams that we had was me building that artwork. And let's see, we have the playtest doc, which is listed as the In Command document, page 108 through 188 in the link in the description down below as well, so you can read along if you want. But we are specifically working on the Oh Momma Chapter 6 challenge. I'm gonna get rid of that. If you were with us last night, you will remember that we are building squares at the 50-foot scale. That this is a 20-foot by a 20-inch by 20-inch map area that again would fit on a standard like a large-sized Chessex rollout map, or if you were to purchase this once it's on DMsGuild, this is each one of these squares here. That's a 10 by 10, 10 by 10, 10 by 10, and 10 by 10. So you could take an 11 by 17 page, and I'll break this up into 10-inch blocks so that you can print, and then cut and then paste them together. Like tape underneath or whatever as a black and white copy. And if you're using VTT, we'll colorize this. But right now we're just working on we're just making asteroids is what we're doing right now. Here's the key that we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this will be the like we can scale this out to about here as a DM map in the actual book. Like here, for instance, I could just go like this, and here, just grab this, like that, copy, paste. There you go. See, that's all the DM really needs to be able to do this thing, to know where each point of the encounter is inside of the challenge. So there's six drop points here that we want to look at. Topola's land, which is Topola's tower here at number 1 in the center of the asteroid field. Each square again is 50 feet. So and it all has the same unified gravity field. So your character can't really die just wandering around this environment. At worst, he's going to just free float and have to swim back to Topola's tower, but a Spelljammer ship can easily fit inside each one of these 50-foot spaces. And hold on, get back to here. Right, and zoom back in. The session that we had last night goes into all the mechanical details of operating at the 50-foot scale the options for being on foot in a Spelljammer ship or on a Convoy that you would have wrangled back in Chapter 5. That are all here. Here's the... So I'm just going to keeping on with actual art here. This is the dock that Topola has on her tower. And the rest of this is just stuff that I made up. There wasn't any real asteroid field that was mentioned in the actual Light of Xaryxis, because, I mean, they only had 64 pages to build the thing. So I think Sadie and team did a pretty damn good job with what they had available to them. And I, as a DM, I actually like the adventure a lot, especially because we have all these mechanics on how to engage Spelljammer at an epic scale, like second edition, but using the revised Infernal War Machine mechanics combined with just 5e sensibilities. So it just ends up being a really, really strong product using what we have. So naturally, we have to go in and the last 20 pages of this document is how to incorporate the prior 60 pages. Page 108 to 168 is about how these mechanics work in any campaign that you want, and then the back 69 through 88 is actually using these mechanics inside of a Spelljammer adventure that Wizards of the Coast has published. So that's kind of like the point of building alternate like supplemental mechanic books in the DM's Guild. It's neat to be able to have mechanics and to build your thing, but you also want to be able to demonstrate how it's relevant. Like, why would you purchase this? So having the command mechanics with the Light of Xaryxis conversion instantly adds value to, like, why would you use this? Because this is how it works with Light of Xaryxis. Please continue. And of course, my stuff is 100% preview on the DM's Guild, so you'll be able to read the whole thing. But all the maps and stuff, the tokens and all, you know, all the pre-built stuff and the color things, you have to actually purchase the thing to get that stuff. But if you've seen any of my other, you look in the description down below at the DM's Guild, you can see how all my stuff is always 100% preview, and if anyone is purchasing any of that stuff, they can attest that I provide a ton. I provide a zip file, a zip folder with a bunch of stuff in them, spreadsheets, tokens, battle maps when appropriate. Yeah, all the bells and whistles that you need to actually use the stuff that I design. It's one thing to have a cool idea, but it's another to actually implement it so that people can immediately make use of it and see the value. So that is the real power of the DM's Guild. If people doubt the 50% is worth it, it's probably because they're not actually curving into stuff that Wizards of the Coast has built that people are craving content for. Hey, Chronic, good to see you, dude. So yeah, we're just making asteroids at the 50-foot scale right now, and that for the Momma adventure challenge for Light of Xaryxis in the Spelljammer's Adventures in Space box set. This is in Chapter 6. Your characters should be 6th level at this point, so they're like second rank commanders. Nothing too aggressive. I mean, they are only at 6th level, so a huge size flying shark is a decent hour of entertainment. So if anyone is interested in playtesting this, once the map is completed, you are certainly welcome to reach out to me. Build a 6th level character. We'll drop you here, and you guys can go wrangle yourselves a shark. So. But last night we had about I want to say it was like a 2-hour session. We really broke down all the mechanics of like operating at the 50-foot scale, how fast like the different types of movement speeds that unnatural creatures can have in the Spelljammer campaign, and how that leans into the Spelljammer economy versus Spelljamming helm and build a ship if there are creatures that are capable of swimming or flying between worlds. Like there's a lot of good reasons. Like there's a good reason why people made wagons sticking with horses. Like obvious benefits to it, and Spelljammer, when the proper mechanics like we have, those reasons become really obvious, while still allowing you to be able to have Space Sawagan on the back of Space Scabbers, having packs of VS Studio document recon. What is going on, Obs? Are you working or aren't you? Oh my god, go the hell away. Yo, dude, what up? Tuning in while work on my own homebrew adventure module. How's everybody doing? Man, it's good to see you, Hornetico. Thanks for participating in the playtest last night. The ship fire mechanics were pretty easy to use. We got some good feedback about allowing for variance in the different types of ability checks made during that challenge, and it certainly makes fires a lot more threatening in Spelljammer than what was provided in the actual Wizard of the Coast content, either Salt Marsh or Spelljammer's Adventures in Space. It's I'm pretty happy how easily everything is curving out and just making intuitive sense. So really happy about. Oh shit, I gotta set a timer because I only have so much time today. It's 11:45. Got about 45 minutes that I can invest right now. So I'm going to set a 20-minute timer and see if I end up fudging that time or not. So I may end up giving myself another hour instead of 45. It's because I love doing this stuff. But I get to ramble and I get to draw at the same time. This is all pretty low intensity. Like right now I'm just cleaning up all these little burrs to make these things like look more like asteroids. But this is the 50-foot scale. So you can, if you still have your Spelljammer ship, it can easily be docked here. Like the living ship would like literally just take up like this much space in a 50-foot square. Or if you were able to wrangle Kandori, you could easily have a number of Kandori. They'd be about this size on a 50-foot scale map. So they already gave us in the Light of Xaryxis. They already gave us the fortress, the tower that Tupola lives on. That's already here, so that works out well. But I need to make sure that I'm building these things so they don't look like they're stacked rocks, that they just look like as I intend. Drafting skills from art college. Yeah, I went to art school for 2 years and then dropped out because I didn't feel like I was learning anything that I didn't already know. I blame that mostly on the quality of artists in Missouri. It's all their fault. But yeah, I don't have any particular agenda today. Like I said, I am just drawing. Here's the key, and of course the actual encounter itself is in the playtest document that's linked on page 1. It'd be around page 185, chapter 6. Oh, Momma. Let's go back to that. Space Eel Colony. Right on. So I'm just going around the edges here, making these rocks less shitty. Cleaning them up to the point where, as line art alone, they'll be decent, and then we'll go into colorization. So that'll be fun. There's only like maybe. Well, we'll need to do the chapter. What is it? Chapter 3 or. Chapter 3, I think, is the Nautiloid derelict in the asteroid field. So we'll have to build that, and then spoiler alerts, you get attacked by a Nyogi night spider. So that's also a scaling exploration challenge that we can use at the 500-foot scale to get into a fight and try to get away from a really well-equipped night spider. So those things are hostile, dude. I got all these like random little burrs that I need to get rid of. So I'm just doing. It's just like a cleanup project. But I want to have these lines of separation so that like you can see that there's like gradation steps moving from one area to another, but not creating a false impression that these are like stacked up rocks on top of each other, because that's difficult for a DM to deal with in a 2D space, on a 2D map in a 3D environment. But the way that we deal it is that this can be the top or the bottom, because you can flip. Like you can just jump off the edge here, and these spaces in between the asteroids is just has that flat gravity. None of these things are large enough to have spherical gravity. You have to be at least 100 miles to have spherical gravity. Otherwise, this is going to be planar gravity. So all these things are all on the same plane. Like it's basically, here's your center line, and like these rocks are like this, right? And then you got Topola's tower in the middle, with at the 50-foot scale is like, it's kind of like this. And then you got all these other asteroids and rocks and stuff that are floating around you. That's basically what this is. So you can bounce up and down between these gravity planes. So if you jump off a rock, you're just going to float there. So you can swim and push off and move between rock to rock. It's pretty easy. I mean, it's a pretty safe environment. But the shark, of course, can fly anywhere. And your Spelljammer ship can pick up and fly anywhere on either side. So when you've got the mechanics are that if you're using like siege weaponry, if something that exists on the 5-foot scale is in the same space as a structure that operates at the 50-foot scale, you can't target them because they have cover. They get at least partial cover from being adjacent to those objects, so you can't target them with ranged attacks using like a ballista or a catapult, because it's just going to hit the structure, not the 5-foot scale creature. Even though Big Momma's is size huge, 15 foot by 15 foot, she's still smaller than the 50-foot scale, so you have to get her out in the open. Like you have to, like if she was here, she wouldn't have any cover. Then you could fire ballistas and kill her pretty easily. But they're smart, so they're going to stay. These scavengers are going to stay in between these asteroids until they find something they want to chase down, and then they could hop over asteroids. But they could also go underneath the asteroids and skim along like this. So if you take your Spelljammer ship and you drop to the underside, then the scavenger can just go to the top side, and again has cover. You can't target it. And these animals are smart enough to know how to maintain cover, and when there's an opening for them to chase after, if you can flush her out, she's going to be easy pickings for your siege weapons. So the challenge is getting close enough to engage her and do enough damage that you spook her, so she tries to bolt, and then be ready to grab her because she can move 1,000 miles per round. So once she gets clear of objects, if she's here and she tries to yeet into the stone at 1,000 miles per hour, she's just going to ram into it and cause herself damage. But if she goes straight up, then she's going to be able to clear that and get out of range of your orrery inside the same round. So if your team is trying to grab, take shots at her when she clears the asteroid field, you have to have your pilot ready to be able to maintain chase. Your Spelljammer ship will easily be able to keep up with a scaver. I mean, we'll overtake it almost immediately, and then you'll be able to gun it down pretty easily. But the challenge is flushing her out of this asteroid field. So hopefully that's pretty straightforward. It's going to take a little bit of writing and a little bit more writing in the document than we have currently. But I'm waiting for Ukulele Bard to finish his first churning of the document to confirm like what order material is presented in and the structure of it and all the yada yada that I can then take back and then add in these other elements that we figured out before we hand it off to Adam to edit. So currently I'm expecting second draft document to probably be done. I reckon mid-December, get it off to Adam. Adam will probably have it done beginning of January, and then I'll be in layouts. And then we'll do the layouts probably by the end of January, and then we'll be into layout. And Adam will have it probably done. In January. Layouts will be done before February, so February and March. Since the cover is done already, I'm expecting probably by March this thing will be published, which is longer than I wanted, and it always is. But you can't rush quality, and I only want to produce quality. So luckily, I don't think anyone's going to create anything super revolutionary in the world of Spelljammer in the next 5 months. So So I think I'm okay to proceed. Again, I'm just looking for these little scraggly bits and inconsistencies. And then once I'm happy with the external edges of everything, like that's just like an open-ended circle, that's garbage. So, but that doesn't really need anything other than that as an asteroid. So it's these larger rocks that have some potential draft three-dimensional space that I can translate. But if I create it clean, I should be able to just do a bunch of fill, like paint can filling of rock colors, and then use that to add in some color, and then we'll have a black backdrop here. I'm just gonna go with this for a bit. Rest my eyes a little. Gotta admit the process of reasoning out modules and content. Here we go here. Gotta admit I'm trying to line things up because I got nudged. Process of reasoning out and modules and content like this is always helpful to watch. I'm still struggling whether to divide my chapter into linear order or make it modular. Yeah, big debate. It depends on how reliant the content is on each other. If it has episodic standalone challenges and instances that can be presented as individual encounters, then there's no reason not to build it that way, because you can tear out pieces and drop them in as separate offerings for lower cost, just as like standalones. Like the Crystals of Mabar adventure that Andy and I had written, we can take the cemetery that's in there. The cemetery is a 500 foot by 500 foot map area. At the 5 foot scale, it's 100 by 100 squares that will fit into a VTT if you've got a strong computer to be able to throw that size of a map at people. You can have that as like a standalone arena environment where there's undead spawns, and if your team just wants to play test killing undead, you can just drop them into the cemetery environment, and it has spawn points and different points of interest, and like there's like 2 puzzle challenges inside of it that is opt-in or out. So like it's part of a larger adventure that will lead you into the next act if you explore it, or it can just be an XP grind area. So, but we built it that way specifically so you can completely ignore it if you want to, because we built that adventure to have replayability, that you could, a DM that likes that adventure could present that adventure in, like, there's 6 basic plot hooks, and there are 3 basic three basic paths that get you into the end boss. So you could run that adventure 18 times and not have it duplicate at all. So there's a ton of replayability that we built into it on purpose like that. And so we had to make it modular, that you can add or drop out anything at any time, as well as be able to move through each encounter area using exploration, combat, or social encounters as your primary focus. So it's just adventure design alone is really interesting, and I've really been enjoying how much the stuff that I've been doing can sync up with what's going on with WOTC content, because it's really helping up my own personal game of translating the official adventures using these alternate mechanics to not only stress test the mechanics that I build, but also to stress test the adventure, or like the what if the adventure. You know, like Hornetico, you've got a lot of experience at this point, like being able to go into Descent into Avernus and have enough firepower and troop strength for you to become your own war boss inside of Avernus, to start bargaining with different powerful creatures that are inside of there, is a really different direction than what the assumed content is going with. And that's what, third content producers like us can like really focus in on. Since we have to give Wizards a cut of whatever we put on the DM's Guild, we should be building things on the DM's Guild that are intended to be used with the stuff that Wizards is selling, that people are buying, so it's relevant. Which is like why Curse of Strahd expansions are so popular. So I'm expecting this to be similarly popular. I'm hoping so, because it's not only providing really strong mechanics, but it's providing means of using it immediately. Like, this is why you would want to purchase this, because it comes with Light of Xaryxis and makes Light of Xaryxis a completely different game. So anyway, I'm rambling, but that's what I kind of do. The real trick is that each chapter of the adventure has a different villain, all parts of the same group. I had this idea to have them be a fightable in any order, but it's proving tricky. It is yeah, that is tricky, especially if you're going to scale more than one level. Like the Crystals of Mabar that we produced, it's designed to gain 1, maybe 2 levels. Like, you can either start at 8th level, or you can start at 7th level and then gain 8th level at some point if you do all the content, and then finish it out. But if you're building something that spans multiple levels, then you are probably going to want to make it more modular by design, because they may not need like a 3-level adventure. They might only just need something for their 5th level characters right now. And that limits how useful what you have is. Plus, if you're spanning multiple levels, I mean, you can create boss fights that operate at different levels, but when your characters gain new spell levels, they basically gain a kit of 40, 70 some odd feats that they can just opt into if they want. So there's a lot of complications in trying to scale across different power spikes in the characters, because you have to take all that crap into account. Like, we specifically made our adventure 7th or 8th level because we want people to attempt to banish things. Like, there's tricks that happen when you try to banish stuff in that adventure, and so it's I gotta save and probably restart this. But that was a specific decision that we had made about that. Like, what sort of resources do we want characters to have access to when they're taking on the challenges that we're presenting? And so what caps do we need to place on the character? That pretty much determines what your level is. Like, if I don't want your characters to be able to teleport 400 feet to get to the bottom of the dungeon, I better limit this to 6th level at most, so you can't dim door, But I specifically want you to I want you to think, I bet if I go here 300 feet, I'll land inside of the boss's lair. It's like, I want you to try that. Like, go for it. You try doing that, please. But we've also been working on it for, no kidding, a year. So, like, in my mind, adventures have long production cycles, because there's a lot of crap that goes into it if it's going to be good. Your miles may vary. And I specifically chose Eberron because Eberron stuff sells. Because there's not a lot of sources of Eberron content outside of the DMs Guild or Homebrew. So, like, if you're going to, in my opinion, if you're going to create your own adventures and sell it on the DMs Guild, Eberron is absolutely the setting that you should be placing it in. Since Wildmont isn't actually available, that would probably be my side. I'm not a fan of Critical Role at all. I don't give a crap about it personally, but people love that. People love those stories, so they want that setting. I don't know, since it's not available on DMs Guild, I don't bother investing any energy into it, because I've got a billion things I could be doing. I don't really want to invest my resources and time on something that I can't, monetize directly. So most of my DM content is future product. So, like, my playtest team, Hornetico and others, plus my actual active 17th level home table, like, those are 2 sources of playtest content that I can use to convert into stuff. So my playtime is production time. So I could technically assign a dollar amount to my DMing and then use that as a write-off, I suppose. I should probably think about that. drafting skills. Brought to you by higher education. Yeah, I poo-poo my college education quite a bit because it didn't really. It ended up just being a lot of debt that I had to pay off. It was really motivating for me to pay it off. So I guess I owe the industry that for putting a fire under my ass about being freely independent and not being, trapped in a potential bankruptcy situation. So I do salute the industry for that. But college was really just a way for me to learn how to be independent with a pretty strong safety net. Because I went from dorms and buying my own meals and having a part-time job and budgeting over the course of a 3-month period of time, like blocks of 3 months before I went back to, went back home and then worked to build up another pocket. So I learned budgeting through that, and I had to learn my own responsibility in scheduling, which prepared me for the business world. But it was expensive. It was in state, but it was still expensive. So I recommend college as an experience, but I am pretty sure it's not an option for, unless you're in a trade industry that requires degree and licensing like doctors and stuff like that. I question the value of higher education if it's not a trade school. But it certainly benefited me, but I had a plan, and it built life skills for me more than anything. Because before that, I lived on a farm, so like I didn't have much business sense. Farmers don't have much business sense, I'll tell you that right now. But we were actually a horse ranch. We stabled horses on top of my parents having their own gig. They stabled horses as a side hustle. So I've always had the side hustle mentality going for me, but I didn't actually learn business smarts. I kind of had to accumulate those. It may just be easier to make each chapter, which sits at a different level each. Gotcha. More independent and usable by themselves, but have the bosses stay locked in. Well, I mean, yeah, you can either. What you can do is have an appendix with each chapter, like to scale up and down the challenge rating of the bosses and the things that they're going to encounter if they're coming in at a higher, at a different level of power than the default. That's an easy way for you to be able to maintain the storyline, but again, making it modular, and then specifically drawing attention that is modular, scaling from like in the second and third tier, like this encounter bracket, like this adventure can scale to these different ranks or whatever. It's just you got to be careful about, like, once you get into teleportation. And divination magic that gives them that minimizes the social and exploration pillar, like we talk about on Terran's channel in his Discord on occasion. You got to really pay attention to what tier, what resources characters have at that tier, so what is going to be an auto success challenge and how to subvert that challenge, so that them using their resources to automatically succeed is just the gateway into the challenge. Like, if you know that they can, find object, for example, locate object. Locate object can trivialize a lot of search encounters and investigation stuff, because you can just cast a spell and it shows you where the thing is. But being led to the thing through the point of, like, if the characters are coming at an environment from a specific direction and they pop locate object, that locate object is going to steer them down a railroad path, and you can use that pathing to control what they're going to encounter on the way. So if you're assuming they're going to use find the path or locate object, you can actually make them spend resources on something they didn't have to spend resources on. Making them casting spells because they want to use their resources to make their character do the thing is its own power fantasy. I chose a wizard because I wanted to have a spell for every situation. So the DM can build the situations assuming those spells are going to be used. If they don't have those spells, you give them a means of duplicating what that spell effect would have done through skill checks or whatever else it is that you do. But you always want to start your encounter building, what tier are they at? What resources and spells do they assume to have access to, assuming that they're picking optimally, and so what does that give them auto successes on, and what can you do to make those auto successes actual complications, so that they feel clever for using the resource but get stung at the same time because, oh crap, that led us right to this thing, and now we are like completely unprepared for what that thing is a great way to counteract. Find the path or locate object or locate creature, etc. And if they don't have access to those resources for some reason, then speaking to, hey, if they don't have that spell, this is how they can get to the same conclusion. And that allows you to create a couple different prongs, like the pitchfork that leads characters into the assumed railroad that you want them to be on. So there you go. The book that the book that all this stuff is, I would never attempt that I could outdo the late Mike Shea, the Lazy DM, because his book is excellent. But you know, I have my own feedback and opinions about stuff, and again, I built the adventure using those premises so that when the adventure is on the Dungeon Master's guide, on the Dungeon Master's Guild, I'll make it 100% preview like everything else is. So that when you're looking at that, hey, how does Phil build adventure book? It'll say like check page 36 of Crystals of Mabar, and you'll see how we structured that thing, and this is how you can lean into that idea, is like making this a social encounter instead of blah blah, or whatever the topic of conversation is. When I was building the book last year, I'm like, God, I'm coming up with all the, like, for me to explain this point, I have to have an example to show its relevance, and it only took me like maybe 2 pages worth of examples, which is like, you know, at this point I may as well just make an adventure and use that as a case study of these ideas. And now we have Crystals of Mabar. So super excited about that. Best decision I ever made. And of course the adventure builder, the Eberron adventure builder, will be bundled with Crystals of Mabar and any other adventure that I make in the future with Eberron. Just bundle them all in together so you can just get more and more and more stuff and piece them together and build a mega campaign out of all the different adventures. It's like the Crystal of Bar is level 7 and 8 in mid Carnathy, but the other adventure that I created using it is for 5th and 6th level characters in the northern Arctic Circle, just like maybe like 700 miles north of where this adventure takes place. So if you're moving geographically from the circle back into Carnathy, you could potentially run into this adventure after you gained your level from level 6 to level 7. Now you're just folding into the next adventure. So I can just geographically keep panning out and finding different areas where I can then drop in different tiered adventures so that you can just move from adventure to adventure and build out a thing. So anyway, that's some of my rambling. The more I ramble, the less I draw. But I mean, you know, it's the journey, not so much the destination, right? But the destination is going to kick ass. Super looking forward to it. Wally World is going to be awesome. When you're making asteroids like this, like when you're making geomorphic shapes that aren't Euclidean, it's useful that you have these open brackets so you can tell that it's the same structure. And so like you could climb up this way, or you could just walk around this way. And so you want to have all your shapes, like all these lines spiraling into the center of the object. You always want to be spiraling into the center of the object when you're building these things. Like over here, I want to have like I can have another rock, because like this can be its own face in the 3-dimensional space, but you can see it's part of the same structure and you can just curve things like that, so like you can see that spiral effect. So it doesn't matter where your characters are on the rock; they're always, you know, on the rock. So anyway, that's why I'm making the decisions that I'm making about the lines that are on here, and as I continue fanning through the asteroid field and seeing objects, I can see what is already adding to that narrative or what's contradicting it. So I had to come in here and I had to fix this asteroid because it, like, this one is contradicting that statement, because I was just, you know, throwing together rocks and I wasn't really paying attention to it, knowing that I'd go through this phase. So now that we're in this phase, you can see that all these lines are, again, spiraling into the middle. And that's how you can make real easy looking asteroids. Again, if you're playing in meat space at a kitchen table, you should just go out to your backyard and just grab a stack of gravel and just drop it onto your map to represent asteroids. Gravel is the best asteroid you can find. So I recommend that. But I only work in virtual. So like I started using, well, I'm like at 3,800 hours on Roll20 right now. So I mean, I've been using it for like a long time. So I like being in the virtual space. I like how easy it is to just grab and drop MTG cards to make minis, you know, to make tokens and stuff like that. Everyone's models is going to vary a little bit, but that's just me personally. So I'm gonna grab this and do it like that. Yeah, I like that. These tiny ones, I don't really need to have a lot of drafting, because they're just little objects, you know. But like if they're roughly a square, I'm going to want to have like one contour line. If they're bigger, I might want to have more than one contour line. I can put a contour line there, and I can put another one here for this object, like that. But futzing with this stuff is just, it can be addictive. It can really, but there's a limit on quality that you're attaining. Like, it's fun to do these things, but at a point, it just doesn't matter anymore. It's as an artist, it's important to recognize at what point are you just mincing, and you're not actually inventing any new ideas. And once you get to the mincing stage, just get done and get out, because you're just wasting your time now. You're not going to add any quality to the piece unless there's legitimate detail that's missing. There's a difference between necessary detail and just futzing around. Like once you've expressed everything that needs to be expressed inside the picture, you need to move on, because you're not actually adding any quality. You're just wasting you're devaluing your production hours. So recognize the skill that you're at and how quickly you can move through the level of skill that you have, so that you don't end up, you know, burning 30 hours on rock details when you really did not need to do that. Hopefully some of this stuff is making sense. like, so when we pan out, there's like all these added lines in here. It's causing this object to have a higher line density than any of these other things. So this is outweighing the rest of the composition. Your eye is automatically getting pulled to it because it's got that face bit to it. So I need to trim back on the amount of lines that are happening there so it doesn't unbalance the picture. It should be something that you're like, oh, that's interesting, but it shouldn't be so detailed that it is it's out. It's putting too much weight in that end of the page. So you can see that, like, around it, I'm adding more objects that have more line density to help balance the face. But just the fact that there's a notable face here at all automatically creates more eye attraction because it's something that you're looking to visually connect with because it's a face. So I have to build it to look like a rock that's faded over time while retaining the face narrative, but without overwhelming the rest of, without unbalancing the composition of the overall map. So that is what I'm currently working on, and it may just force me to have more line weight in general of other objects in the environment to help maintain that balance. But so far, I'm not really complaining about how things are sitting. Pretty pleased. Pretty pleased. Where are we at? We're almost done. I definitely tend to end up with the messing about stage with my writing, trying to find the perfect wording for things instead of working on other aspects of the project like mechanics or art. Yeah, that's why that's why I like to hire a second writer and an editor. I can take ideas and just try to flesh them out enough so that the other writer can grok what these ideas are and then try to provide enough narrative guidance so that it can lock in, and then have the other writer flesh out all the bits. And then once they flesh out the bits, they can pass it back to me to retool it to make sure that all the mechanics stay in line, and then hand it off to the editor. And while that rewrite process and the edits go on, that's what affords me the time to like do the book cover and mapping like this. So when it actually comes back to me, and I can then take on the task of doing the layouts, I have a lot of the product assets already produced and can just kind of start plugging them in. The interior art I don't like to do until I actually get the final text back, because then I'll have a realistic idea of how are things going to actually sit on, like how many assets. Once it's done with layouts, I know how much open space inside the document there actually is. And like in the DMsGuild link that I have down there, there's a number of books, and you can see how I was actually really sparse with how much writing is on each page, because I wanted to just pack in a lot of art. Like the core mechanics book that's linked down below, the 5 color mana spell point variant rule core mechanics book, that's a 75-page document. It has like 63 illustrations in it. It's dense because this was like that was the first big project that I have done on the guild. That was in November 2019. So we're almost 2020. Yeah, it's almost been out for 3 years now. So and it's in Electrum. It's got over 400 sales at this point, so it's pushing to gold. But that means that it's had 400-ish sales in 36 months. So that means I roughly sell 10 a month. You know, it's slowed down a little bit recently because it's getting stale, but it's ready. It'll be easy for me to convert it into whatever 6E mechanics they come up with, because it looks like they're keeping the overall 5E structure in general. And the spell points are translations from spell slots, so even if they tinker with that, it's not going to impact me much. So I'm really looking forward to 6E coming out, because it's an opportunity for me to update all my books, and all my books are built to curve into each other. So once one book works, the rest of them automatically work with it, and it just becomes a better document. The whole set becomes better for it. So But it also allows me an opportunity to like to reevaluate the art that's in there. It's like I really want to swap out this piece of art and put something else in there. When I rebuild all the books, I can redo the layouts with my newer sensibilities. Since my skills increased over the past 3 years in doing layouts, I can take and I'm always updating these things anyway. So I'm going to give myself 20 more minutes, just because I like doing this for a living. So I'm going to put in the extra 20 minutes here, and then I'll be done for the day. So we are in our last 20-minute stretch here, and I am, again, just going through here, building some asteroids to make them look good. Like that's roughly a 50-foot space, so I don't really need to add. I don't need to add any on this one either, but I definitely don't want it to look like a peachy butt. I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna do that. Just a little bit of. Just a little tag of roughness on that. Here. Clean up all the. I'll probably end up cutting this out and replacing it back in after all the futzy cleanup is resolved. This is also following, like, you get this line here, and you got these lines here, and you got this line here, and this here, and this here. This is also following that basic spiral pattern that we were talking about over up over here. Yeah, that's very bright. I'm going to go back to the... Oh, that's so much easier on my eyes. Hey, Tyler, how you doing, dude? Hey, I'm glad to hear it, man. Well, you've definitely been a big asset to the project, T. So I appreciate you sticking around and trying to plug in when you can, man. I call my DM boss too, so I know where that's coming from. Gotta make these insets pretty consistent. They don't have to be consistent with each other. They have to have their own internal, like literally their own internal logic. Like you can like everything spirals in the same direction on these things, regardless of what its shape is. But the spirals don't have to be the same direction. Like this one's spiraling this way. This one's also spiraling this way, but this one's spiraling this way. It's like and you want to have that contradiction occasionally because it helps break up the ice space a little bit. And you can see I'm doing these right hand turns. This is a weird object, so that's an exception. But like where was it? Like here, yeah. Like this one and this one and this one. Those are all spiraling that way. But then I have this hook, this 90-degree or more hook that changes direction. So the overall structure spirals clockwise while this upper space spirals counterclockwise. So I can have, like on this plane here, I can have one rock face that's going this way, but I can also have the same line go this way as well, because over here it's spiraling this way, but over here it's spiraling this way, and here it's open. So you want to maintain that like when you're doing drafting. In particular, like when you're drafting three-dimensional objects into two-dimensional spaces, you need to think about how are you showing the organic bendingness, quote unquote bendiness of an object by working these things into the pieces that you're illustrating, or in this case, mapping. That also helps break up your shape, and like this is like that's a weird looking object. Like how would that exist? It wouldn't. But I could do that. So now it's spiraling this way. So now I can like branch this out and like do that. That's too much. So I need to back off. Like I need to open up this plane a little bit so it becomes ambiguous as a which, like, how is this thing, like that area there, how's that do? I want to create enough space between contradictory lines so that your eye has rest space, so as it transitions from one flow to the next, it doesn't run into a grind where it's like, how does this object work? That doesn't seem natural. But here it's like, oh, okay, I can see how this object works. So you got to get your curvature to work with how your eye is going to try to bend it in space to make the lines work. That's like, well, that's just drafting and illustration in general, but it's particularly handy with mapping rocks like this. Here, so that's too unnatural. So I can have this here, but it needs to bend away quickly so I can create more of a space here. And then I want to cleave into this to break that line. There, that's an interesting-ish object, but it feels a little too flat over here. So I'm going to flesh that out a bit so it puffs out into the space a little bit better. There. See, this one going this way matches with this one going here. So you got this spiral here, and then you got the larger spirals also feeding into it. That's cool. I'm going to do that. There it is. Cool. There, making shapes. Dog and 2 cats have been neutered. Okay. We had to kick 2 guys out of 2 properties, and they just left it a mess. Ah, that sucks. What a pain in the tuchus. But hey, that's why you get paid the big bucks, right? I don't know about that. I am running out of time. I got about 10 minutes left in stream today, but again, I'm just making rocks. We're just making rocks. That one's too small for me to really warrant a big nugget. So I'm just gonna keep that guy small and simple. I'm also gonna have to come through here and scrub out all this stuff to do the cleanup. Clean up all this grit.
There we go.
here. There we go. A little bit like that. There you go. Pretty happy about that. So far, so good, man. Let me drop the key back in. You got the 6 points here, which modifies what Momma's behavior is, or her starting state during the encounter. I'm pretty pleased, and I got about 2 minutes left, so I think this is a decent spot for a lunch stream for the day, so we're gonna do that. I'm gonna have some time on Sunday in the morning here in Seattle, probably like 9 a.m. Seattle time. I'll probably be doing the Eberron cover is pretty much done. I'm just futzing with a few details, but it's pretty much done. So I'm gonna start in on the same like sort of mapping process again. Like I've got like maybe 15 episodes in the Eberron stream of me just doing maps. Well, it's time for me to dive back in and continue the mapping effort. So that's what we'll be doing on Sunday. Just again, another look at the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration cover that we finished here now. So this will be the cover to the book, and this will be like around page 72. That will end up dropping this this map into. Yeah, man, I am excited. I am excited about where we are heading. We've got we built what is this? Building crystal sphere, or building systems. How to do that, and you can see you get the same scaling system that's going on with those, and got all the bits. All the bits are in here. Modifications to how fast creatures can move, for moving between worlds, and like how scaling, like megapedes are like 150 feet long. So like, what kind of a threat do they pose to your ships? Like Kandori, how fast can they move? That sort of stuff. All that stuff is in here. So this will be a pretty strong product. I'm hoping people agree that's a pretty strong product when it's done. But finally, with things calming down, I'm hoping to run my own playtest. And hey, cool, dude! I am. I wish you great luck. All right. Yep. I think I'm done for the day. So we're going to again cover today's map. It'll eventually have like that. You know, again, why did I pull that up? Bragging rights, of course, but also the star field. That we have going on, like the same sort of this astral mist and the star fields. That'll be in the background here, because this will actually be 100% opacity, and then when we colorize all these bits, they'll be able to stand out. So. But yeah, we're done. So that's my day. Like, subscribe, share, stick around. Watch some more of watch like the previous episode to see how this started, and then the 12 episodes before that about how we were building ship mechanics and system mechanics and movement and visualization and targeting and action economy, all that crap. It's in the past 12-ish episodes, along with some illustration. But